All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on this session. Welcome to this Therefore event, where we're going to be talking about the power of Therefore workflow. So a really interesting topic we have for you today about what many people believe is the best part of Therefore. So before we start, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Kono from the Therefore Digital Engagement team, and I am joined by my colleague, Amber.
Hi guys, I'm Amber Swenson. I am also part of the digital engagement team. Happy to be here with you guys.
Perfect. All right, and Amber, if you could just confirm that screen sharing is working properly. We good with that?
Yep,
Perfect.
looks
Thank you
great.
so much. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Always do that when I get started with the webinar. So what are we going to be talking about today? So we actually have four major points, but there is quite a lot to discuss. Of course, we're here to talk about Therefore workflow and how great of a feature it is and how it can help companies improve their business. But we're going to start off with, a more general topic. First, we wanted to talk to you guys about BPA, business process automation, and workflow in general, just on a high level, what it means. We're then going to go into an overview of how Therefore does workflow, essentially how Therefore implements automation features. Then we're going to be talking about something very cool, which is the ITRG SoftwareReviews, in which Therefore was voted number one ECM software for workflow automation. So that's something we're very proud of, and we want to show you just why Therefore is the number one solution on the market there for workflow automation. And finally, we're going to finish with some sample use cases. So what we mean with that is we're going to give you some examples of how Therefore workflow is used in different industries and departments, the types of processes that can be automated with it. And we're also going to show you a little bit of some real life workflows. So I'm going to have some screenshots to show you. I also have a demo video of what it looks like as a user to be participating in a Therefore workflow.
Awesome.
So Amber, I'm going to ask you to get started with this first part, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Let's dive right into it. So we're kind of in the age of automation now, right? We're talking about AI and automating processes in all aspects of our lives. So automation isn't really a choice anymore. It is a necessity in order to keep up with an ever competitive marketplace. So automating workflows with information management solutions can provide a range of benefits to organizations, including improved efficiency, compliance, collaboration, and data-driven decision-making. So with the right solution in place, organizations can gain a competitive advantage by developing and implementing more effective workflows that drive business success and is good for the bottom line. The benefits of automation are numerous, the most obvious being the increased efficiency and productivity. With digital workflows, businesses can automate those repetitive and time-consuming tasks, such as data entry, approvals, and notifications, and that can free up your very talented employees to do more value-added activities. So this not only increases the speed at which the work is completed, but it can also make the quality of the work better by reducing errors and improving the overall quality. So another key benefit of automating business processes using digital workflows is the ability to gain insights and data about how the work is being done. So by tracking and monitoring the flow of work through the system, businesses can identify bottlenecks, track performance, and measure the impact of a process change, which is really useful. This data can be used to inform continuous improvements and optimize workflows for maximum efficiency and effectiveness. Digital workflows can also provide better visibility and control over business processes, especially when it comes to compliance and governance. By establishing clear roles and procedures in the workflows, businesses can ensure that the work is being done in a consistent and compliant manner. This is really very important for a number of highly regulated industries, such as healthcare and finance. Those are industries where compliance requirements are strict. and non-compliance can result in significant penalties and even reputational damage. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between business process automation and workflow. So there is overlap between the two. BPA is a broader concept, and it involves a range of technology and process optimization strategies, while workflow specifically refers to the steps involved in completing a particular process. So it's a bit more specific. BPA involves the use of technology to automate and optimize business processes. And it may include automating tasks, streamlining workflows, reducing manual intervention, and improving efficiency. BPA can help organizations reduce costs, improve quality, and increase productivity. So it is an important part of having an efficient business. But workflow, on the other hand, refers to a series of tasks that are necessary to complete a specific business process. So a workflow typically involves multiple steps, each of which of those steps may involve different people, departments, or systems. Workflow management, which is what Therefore does, involves coordinating and optimizing these steps to ensure that the process runs smoothly and efficiently. So in most cases, BPA involves workflow automation, which means that the technology is used to automate the specific steps in workflow. However, BPA can also involve like a broader concept of process optimization that goes beyond workflow management. Right, so now we're going to look at the Do Less, Get More with Therefore Workflow video.
Yes, thanks, Amber. So I will pull up this video just to give you some context. This video is available on our YouTube channel as well. It's just sort of a general high-level introduction, setting a bit of a context with a little bit of a cartoony story to tell you a little bit about how Therefore Workflow can help organizations. When we come back, we're going to get into the specifics of Therefore Workflow, and we're going to take a look at this award that Therefore Workflow actually received. So just give me a few seconds. It's going to take me a few seconds to pull up the video, and I'll play that for you now. This is Amanda. Amanda works with documents all day. The company Amanda works for doesn't have an automated workflow, so her daily tasks are repetitive and time-consuming, which she finds frustrating. She spends countless hours and mental energy trying to track down documents, get approval signatures, and figure out where she is in her workflow. This leads to inconsistent performance, dissatisfied customers, and excessive stress for Amanda. This is Amanda's friend, Tim. His job is like Amanda's, but he doesn't feel the same daily stressors she does. That's because the company Tim works for has an automated workflow process powered by Therefore. It has freed up hours of his workday and allowed him to get his work done faster. Tim's performance is consistent, his customers are satisfied, and he is happy about his work. With Therefore Workflow, Tim has complete visibility of where a document is and what will happen next. Automated tasks provide consistency, and escalation paths make sure approvals and collaborations are done in a timely manner without having to track people down. And because tasks are being completed in one place, audits are simple. And when Tim had to start working from home, the switch was very easy. With Therefore, Tim does less repetitive, mindless work, less waiting, less searching, less guessing, less work. So he can get more time, consistency, accuracy, information, peace of mind, job satisfaction, and simply get more done. Don't waste any more time trying to manually manage your company's workflows. With Therefore, you can do less and get more. Right, that's one of my favorite videos that we have about Therefore features. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. We are going to get back now to the presentation.
Software reviews.
Yeah, great stuff. All right. Before we do that, though, let me highlight some of the top features that Therefore Workflow has. So we're going to get into this in a little more detail, of course, but essentially, some of the main things why therefore is actually prized as, the top workflow solution on the market out there. Well, it starts with a very simple thing. It starts with the fact that workflow creation is very easy. I'm going to show you what this looks like later with some screenshots. You're going to see it's a drag and drop interface, and it's a visual workflow. There's no coding in it, actually. It's literally just drag your parts that you need, and it shows you. It's very visual, it's very responsive, it's excellent, yeah, for people who don't have, necessarily programming knowledge. It offers lots of different ways to get things done. You can build in your workflow alternate paths, escalation routes, exceptions, things like that. Of course, notifications are a no-brainer. They're built in. They can tell you about tasks that are new, expiring, and overdue. There is a workflow history, a graphical overview of this, so you can very easily track. It's very, how should I say, very human friendly, to get a play-by-play overview. You can delegate tasks to individuals and groups. You can create workflows on a document or case level. And one of the main things is that there's really endless integration possibilities through the REST API, which you can use within the Therefore workflow itself. So there's a lot of great stuff about the Therefore workflow. And now there's going to be, we're going to be talking a little bit about the award. So you see this has set the stage. What is it that we're going to be talking about exactly with the Therefore workflow overview? And now we want to tell you a little bit more about this award. So there's two parts to this. Let me set some context for you. This was a survey, a very large survey done by SoftwareReviews, which is a division of the Infotech Research Group. I believe they are headquartered in Canada, but they are active worldwide. And in November of 2022, they released their review of the ECM industry. What they did is they looked at 14 different ECM systems on the market today. And you can see here on the screen, there's some quite big names, really all the leaders in the industry. And they collected qualitative and quantitative data points from real end users, businesses, and IT professionals. So this is different from like your Gartners and your Forresters, because what they did here was they actually asked users of the product, right? This wasn't a closed door evaluation. It wasn't done by, say, consultants who took a look at this for a few days and decided this is how we're going to rank it. This is real life use. They asked users, only people who actually use Therefore and these other systems, and they asked them about their experiences. So again, a lot of data being crunched here, but in the end, what they found is that Therefore earned a spot in the leader quadrant in the SoftwareReviews data quadrant, which we see here, which looks pretty similar to the Gartner one. And what this indicates is that Therefore excels at providing both product features and satisfaction, which is this axis here, as well as vendor experience and capabilities, which is this axis here. Some other things I wanted to point out. Therefore scored leading marks on critical business drivers. And so some of these include the quality of the features, ease of implementation, and vendor support, where Therefore scored quite a bit above the average for the category. And again, most importantly, what you see here is ranked #1 in workflow process automation. So Therefore receives really outstanding feedback about this specific feature, absolutely crushing the category average with a 92% satisfaction rate. And it ranked first in workflow process automation out of all of them. You can see here some more detail about this. So you can see that the vast majority of customers, I believe it was 75%, rated their experience as delighted, another 19% as highly satisfied, and I believe it was then 8% where it was almost satisfied. Unfortunately, we can't make everyone completely happy, but great to see was absolutely none of our users were disappointed with the workflow solution. Another thing I wanted to point out is another area where Therefore excelled was the plan to renew. So what this means is they asked among all the users that they asked, this is the percentage that plan to continue and renew their use of Therefore. Again, very high marks scored here among the very top, where we have 94% of customers who are planning to renew their use of Therefore. And even among those who didn't, again, none were actually disappointed with the solution, which is something we're very happy to hear. Beyond that, what you might have missed if you didn't follow us, and no worries if you didn't, over the past couple of months, Therefore also ranked #2 and number 3, again, in the top 3 for many different categories. We ranked number 2 in file conversion and quality of features, and number 3 in metadata management and search capabilities. Beyond that, therefore, was also in the top 5 for almost all of the rest of the features. These include things like breadth of features, vendor support, product strategy, rate of improvement, which is something we're very proud of, ease of data integration, customization, implementation, and the capture channels as well. So this was a very good survey for Therefore. We're proud that we scored top marks, and we're very happy that we are the #1 solution on the market for workflow automation. So Amber, I'm going to pass it back to you now. If you can tell us a few use cases, why customers, how it's essentially helping customers and why they think we're the #1 solution.
Sure, love to. So as you can imagine, Therefore workflows are beneficial in many different applications and use case scenarios. In fact, Therefore can pretty much be tailored to any business or department that needs their information managed. So when it comes to HR, some of the processes that benefit from workflow is employee onboarding. So the employee onboarding process requires the creation of multiple types of documents, including an offer letter, employee contract, background check consent form, W-4s, and other necessary documents that need to be created or filled out. So automating this process through digital workflows can streamline the entire process, reduce errors, delay, and manual work. And it also makes a really good impression on potential employees. It can sometimes be challenging to hire, and making a good impression, make sure that you get talented performers. So other HR processes, such as performance evaluations, leave requests, and disciplinary actions can also be automated through digital workflows. Automated workflows can send out reminders, they can track progress, and provide notifications to ensure that all the necessary steps are completed in a timely and efficient manner. Accounts payable and accounts receivable. For that, invoicing and payment processes can be automated through digital workflows, which can help eliminate really tedious manual data entry and reduce the human errors that are bound to occur. Automated workflows can also send out invoices, they can track payments and generate receipts automatically, freeing up staff time for more strategic work. Purchase requisitions and approvals can also be automated through digital workflows to ensure smooth and efficient procurement processes. And automated workflows can also send purchase requests to the appropriate approver and to track the status of each request and also generate reports for management, which is great for just future planning. Contract management can also be a complex and time-consuming process that involves multiple parties, revisions, and approvals. So automating this process through digital workflows can really simplify, streamline the process, reduce the manual work, and ensure compliance with contractual obligations, which is huge. Other things that workflow can help with is customer onboarding. So customer onboarding can be automated using digital workflows, which can streamline the process of collecting information, verifying identities, and setting up new customer accounts. The automated workflows can reduce manual work, minimize errors, and improve the overall customer experience, which is another huge thing. Sales processes such as lead generation, prospecting, and closing deals can also be automated through digital workflows. Automated workflows can help manage and track leads. They can send out personalized follow-up emails. They can also generate reports to help the sales team make important data-driven decisions. Compliance management is an important one. It can be a really complex process that requires like tracking and reporting on a number of various regulatory requirements. So automating this process using digital workflows can help ensure that all the necessary steps are completed on time, reduce errors, and minimize the risk of non-compliance and avoid some hefty fees. So, talking about compliance, we have this because, we've heard all these things about companies and organizations and sometimes even governments being impacted by data breaches. So this is really a serious concern for a lot of companies because the regulations have been popping up around the world over the past few years in an attempt to address some of the root causes leading to these breaches, and more importantly, protect the people whose data is being compromised. So the EU GDPR was one of the first major regulations in the sense that it was both like a modern approach that takes in like the latest current new technologies into account, and because it imposes heavy fines for noncompliance. So there have been like high profile privacy laws in effect since the 90s, like the US's HIPAA, the EU's DPD, and Canada's PIPEDA, but this has been limited, or like it was limited either in scope because they're kind of dated before we really ramped up our technology to where it is now, or just like enforceability. They were a little weak. So the GDPR is pretty much regarded as like the first modern heavy hitter, and it's been closely followed up by copycat legislation around the world, like California's upcoming Brazil's LGPD, and Japan's APPI. So digital workflows like those in therefore can help organizations comply with GDPR and CCPA and more in a number of key. The digital workflows can provide organizations with greater visibility into their data and information management processes, which is making it easier to track and manage personal data across the organization. So this can help organizations identify areas of non-compliance and take the appropriate action to address them. Secondly, digital workflows can help organizations automate key processes related to data privacy, such as responding to data access requests and managing consent preferences. By automating these preferences, organizations can ensure that they are meeting their obligations under the GDPR and the CCPA in a timely and efficient manner. Lastly, digital workflows can also provide organizations with the tools to monitor and manage data breaches. So by setting up automated alerts and notifications, these organizations can quickly identify and respond to data breaches, which is a key requirement under both GDPR and CCPA. Did you get all that?
Wow, a lot of information,
Yeah.
Amber. Oh my goodness. Information overload. The great
Oh
thing
yeah.
is that we have a recording. We're recording this webinar.
Yep.
So if you're trying to follow everything that we're talking about, no
What
worries.
was that? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be able to go back and reference, and of course we'll send you the slides as well. So yes, a lot to talk about. And again, we're not trying to scare people. With this, it's just the reality of the world we live in, and the whole point of using an information management solution like Therefore, and specifically workflow within it, is to help you comply with these threats that are out there, cyber attacks, and also with the threat of the government knocking on your door and imposing fines. So this is what we're here for.
Yep.
All right, great. So now I want to move on to some examples of real workflows. So what I'm going to show you here is what a designed workflow looks like in Therefore. These are just some screenshots, and essentially we're going to go from sort of simple to more complex. I have, I think, 5 examples for you. I'm going to walk you through them. So let's just go ahead and get started. This one is a fairly simple approval process. Again, you see it's a sequential steps, it's a bunch of sequential steps. Not really that complicated. There's really only one action. This little guy here shows you that it's a manual task, but there's more to this workflow then meets the eye. So what's going on here is we have a start and an end, of course. And as I said, these are manual tasks and they're clearly labeled as to who's doing what. But there's something going on here. This is already showing some slightly advanced functionality with therefore. What this is doing is it's splitting it up. So we start with this document, with this invoice in this case that needs to be approved, and it gets split up. Now, what the therefore workflow does is it can logically determine who this is going to. So these are pretty clear. You know, I've got to get approval from the finance director. I got to get approval from the sales director. But we can also add a pretty simple condition here, which is that if the invoice amount is over 10,000, as you can see, it's got to go to the CEO as well. But if it's not, then it just gets routed to these two guys. So once these two folks are done with their approval, it's collected and it's done. So that's, again, a fairly simple approach with a little spice in there to show you a little bit of some of the more advanced functionality that therefore can offer. Another one we talked about was recruiting. Amber talked about the HR process. HR is a huge area where therefore can help with so many different processes. It's really like almost everything an HR department can do can be automated with therefore workflow. We chose recruiting. Another popular one is onboarding. I didn't include it in this one, but that's a super common scenario that therefore workflow is used for. What we see here, again, it's a sequential process. This one is fairly simple, but there's some automated stuff going on in here. This is just a 4-round interview here that we can see. These guys are the first round, second round, third round. But what's going on here? There's also status updates here. So of course, the therefore system can automatically update your status. So here we set it, for example, just really easy, set to our first round, set to second round, set to third round, or personal interview. Or in case the application goes south at any of these steps, we can reject the application and the candidate is then informed. So this is a good mix showing some automated and some manual tasks that are included. And with manual tasks, the workflow is still automated. What we mean is that a person, a human, actually has to approve something or choose the next step. So this is, again, something that we configured. You can configure this to however your recruiting process may go, if it has to go through many different people or if it has to sort of smartly choose which person is chosen. In this case, it's not, but you can have a single master workflow that based on data on the document decides, okay, this is an application for the finance department, goes to finance. This is an application for sales. This is an application for engineering. And that's all routed that way. So you can get much more complex with this, but we wanted to give you a pretty simple, easy to understand example of what this could look like in recruiting. This one is, again, a line item approval, but this one is getting a little more complex. So what's going on here? Oftentimes when you have an invoice, especially in bigger companies, has different line items on it that may need to be approved by different departments. This is something that therefore can do pretty easily. Again, this looks like a simple workflow, but again, there's more to it than meets the eye. We had a customer once who presented at a Therefore conference, and this was a guy who was responsible for manufacturing at a steel manufacturer. So he was their IT guy, and he showed a workflow that looked kind of like this. And he said, "This is the most important workflow that we have in our company. Without this workflow, we would be dead in the water." But it's very, very simple. So I specifically remember what he said. His name was Kevin. He said, "A workflow doesn't have to be complicated. It has to be efficient." And that is often the case with workflows is the simpler they are, the more you've optimized that process. So this is actually a fairly complex process, but it's simply laid out. What's going on here is this, what's called a user split here, this route to cost center. So we may have different cost centers that need to approve different line items on an invoice. And this little innocuous looking task here is actually making the extremely dynamic decision of who this is going to. And then what happens when it goes here, this can be any one of a number of people. This is not shown here because I don't want to get too much into the configuration, but this could be, one of, I don't know, 10, 15 people, depending on the cost center. And you see, we also have a loop here in case something needs to be clarified or replaced. It can be sent over and sent back. There's also another special thing going on here. You may see this little warning triangle. This is an exception, what we call an exception merge, where if there is some kind of problem with the workflow, it needs to be canceled, but you need to keep track of, the reason of why it was canceled, that can be done here. And this is a completely automated process. So if someone at some point here says, well, something is wrong here, we need to start over, you can take this, what we call an exception merge, merges all of the tasks together, even if it's been routed to 15 different people already, merges it all together, cancels it out, notifies everyone, and you can restart the workflow. This next one is a pretty simple one. It's a general sequential process. I put it up just because there's more going on. This is, I believe, a nine-step process. And what we see here is that there's some tasks, and once the task has been done, it gets updated. So we finished step 1, updated to step 2. Then there's more going on here. We can build in some like wait tasks. So this one here, for example, is waiting for a follow-up date. This is based on information that you have in the document. What we have here is a loop that's going on. So once we have our update when confirmed, you can either, this takes into account like a delay. If there's a delay in the process, we can say, all right, we need to wait another 3 months or something like that. This gets updated, we wait for the delay date, and therefore workflow actually waits until it starts this loop again. And this can be done again and again and again as needed. And there's lots of different escalation paths here. If something gets refused, we got the refusal here. Otherwise, if it continues, we see here the path to the end. So again, there's a lot of things we can do. This next one, please don't get scared. This one is just an example of a fairly complex order flow. But what I wanted to point out here is that, actually, I'm going to go back one more. I'm going to show you something. This little symbol, which is of a user icon, this is showing a manual task. So a point where a person has to do something for the next step, right? That's completely missing here. As complicated as this workflow takes all of about 1.5 seconds to complete because it's all manual, because it's been set up that way. These are all routing tasks, depending. What we're seeing here is, depending on the region, where it's going to go, depending on more specific examples, how the status gets updated, which people need to be included on an email. And finally, all of this goes down to a singular automated task, which is to send an email. So looks very complex, only takes about 1.5 seconds to complete. Just to give you an example of some of the things that you can do completely automated. Once a document gets saved, goes through the workflow automatic, absolutely zero human input needed. A final one I wanted to highlight is a sub workflow. So this GIF is going to loop, but as it's going, I'm going to talk about it. What you can do and therefore start a workflow that triggers other workflows beneath it. So what's going on with this one is essentially this is an offboarding. We talked about onboarding. This one is offboarding. This is when it goes here, we wait for our last working day. It's going to start an offboarding sub workflow. That determines what's going to happen when an employee leaves. There's a lot of things that need to be done. For example, an exit interview, need to remove the user from the company IT. This is done. We notify the main workflow. This starts off again here, and we close the HR file. So again, we can have interconnected workflows that wait for each other and respond to each other to handle quite complex processes. A lot more is possible than this. I wish I could show you everything because I'm a super fan of workflow and I use them a lot in my day-to-day work at Therefore itself. Fortunately, we don't have the time for it, but there's so much more that's possible. You can do workflows based on cases, which is a logical grouping of documents, not just a single document. Custom scripting is available, and integration with the REST API. With these 2 points, you can pretty much do anything that's technically possible with workflow. You can update reference tables even. You can automatically create documents. This is a huge one. So it's not just email. You can automatically create documents with information within documents that are already in the workflow. You can create new documents on top of that. Guys, this is like 10% of what you can do, everything that I showed you. There's really so much more that is available. I wanted to tell you about these 3 courses that we see here. Therefore has an e-learning platform that is available to Canon, which is our commercial partner and partners of Canon. If you are part of that community, you can have access to the Therefore extranet. We have awesome e-learning, which includes 3 full courses on workflow, going from simple to quite complex. This last one is all about integration using the REST API. Highly recommend it. based on your technical level, you can choose which one you want to do. Obviously, you can't do workflow 3 before you do workflow 1, right? But definitely, you're not required to do all of them. You can do the ones that seem appropriate to you, and you can certainly preview the course when you sign up for it to see what's included and what you want to do. A lot of great stuff in this. If you do these 3 courses, you are a workflow master. So if you want to be a workflow master, absolutely take these 3 courses. I want to say if you are a customer or if you're someone who is not part of that Canon community necessarily, please reach out to your local contact, the person who was responsible for implementing or selling Therefore in your organization. And I'm sure we can get in touch to see what we can do to help you make the most use of your Therefore system. So very simply, now we're getting to the point of what it looks like. We talked about all this theory and all this stuff I just showed you was all background stuff. Great for admins. Now, as an end user, you may be asking, okay, but what does it actually look like when I'm doing something with it? There's a couple of options. You can process Therefore tasks in 4 different ways. First one is if you're using the Therefore Navigator. This is our very basic installed client, the way most people access Therefore, which is an installed application on your computer. What we're seeing here is your list of tasks that you're working on, all the different workflows that you could be a part of. They're all listed here. Very logical, very simple to understand. It's just a list, no big deal. You open your document and you process as needed there. You can also process tasks from the web client. The web client is a more compact interface. So as you can see here, we have this nice lady who's very happy about her Canon scanner. But what I wanted to show you here was that you can look at your document on one pane. You have your information for your workflow here. I understand this is a little bit small, this screenshot. But in any case, it's a quite simple interface, and it's very good for the non-power users, right? For people who are just processing workflows. I would suggest the Navigator for people who need to do more complex stuff, and Web Client is great for people who just need to, yes, I approve of this or choose this path. Those fairly simple uses. No surprise, it's also available on the mobile app. Of course, you can process workflows on the mobile app. This is a screenshot from an iPhone of what it looks like. Pretty simple interface, pretty easy to use. You can view your document and decide on which steps you want to take next. This really cool one, a new one. You can process Therefore workflows with an integration of Microsoft Teams. So this is a pretty new feature in Therefore. It's only been available for about the past 6 months, but it is probably the neatest way to process Therefore workflows. And this is actually what we want to focus on. We want to show you a video of what this looks like, because Therefore Workflow and Microsoft Teams is a really good combination. A lot of us are using Teams every day, and it's like our main communication channel. And when you integrate Therefore with Teams, you have access to all of your workflows within there. So let me show you a video. This is actually a demo video. You're going to see it in action. It's narrated by me. Of what this looks like. So again, we're looking at a workflow here. We're processing a workflow as 3 different users, I believe. So you're going to see 3 different ways of doing it, all using the Teams integration. So let me pull this up for you. And when we come back with just a few final words, because we're almost done for today.
In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a use case scenario for the Therefore integration with Microsoft Teams. We'll be looking at a workflow that is handling HR recruiting. We'll be looking at the perspective of 3 different users who are involved in this workflow. That means 3 different users will approach handling workflow tasks in 3 different ways, all using the integration with Microsoft Teams. The workflow has started, and our user is about to receive the notification in Teams. He clicks to the Teams bot, and here he sees already the first card that is sent by the Therefore Teams integration. The card is full of information about the document and the workflow. So if we take a look, we can see all of the pertinent information about the applicant here. This is Samira from the United States applying for the role of sales representative. We have some instructions for the task, which are to review the application and choose to either schedule an interview or reject the application. Of course, before we make this decision, we have to review the document. So let's open the document for viewing. We can now view the application. Scrolling through, this is the dynamic web viewer in Therefore. We can take a look at the application. In this case, for example, we want to highlight her experience at Timmerman Industries. So we may want to ask her more about that. So let's go back into Teams, and under additional information, I'm going to enter this for the next processor. I'll write, ask about the experience that this candidate had with Timmerman Industries, and that's in the additional information box. Then I'm going to select my option, which is to interview the candidate. At this point, the Therefore card confirms for me that the document has been processed and that the workflow task has moved on to the next step. Now it's time for the second person to process. So the first person agreed to interview the candidate. This is now going to pass to the person who will actually be conducting the interview. So this person is also using the Therefore integration with Teams to be notified of their role in this workflow, but they're going to do things a little bit differently. So here comes the notification. Let's take a look. Again, we see all the information that we need about the candidate, and we see the instructions for the task, which are to review and schedule a first round interview. We also see the additional information that was left by the previous processor. So let's take a look now. A difference already here is that this user is not using the Therefore Dynamic Web Viewer, but rather they're using the classic web client, which we are all familiar with and has been around in Therefore for a very long time. We're going to take a look, and let's just fast forward a bit and say that we interviewed the candidate. At this point, we're going to add some additional notes maybe. Perhaps the interview didn't go as well as we expected it to go. So this now processor is going to add some information about some doubts they had about the candidate. Going to click Save, and then we're going to do something different. We're going to process this not in Teams, but rather in the classic web viewer, as we would normally do, even if we weren't working with the Teams integration. Once we get back to Teams, we can see that from the card that the workflow has been processed. This has been updated in Teams, even though we processed the workflow in the Therefore classic web client. This final step is going to be the next and final person who's taking a look at this person's application through the workflow. This person is using still the Therefore integration with Teams, but they're doing it on their phone. So here we have the Teams app open, and we're about to receive the notification. So here comes the notification about a workflow task. We'll click on that. And we'll see, again, all the same information we saw before, except now we see a lot of additional information. We see everything that the previous reviewers had written. For example, the first note, which was about asking about the experience with Timmerman Industries, and then the note from the second person who did the first round interview, where they said the candidate showed some hesitancy and inexperience. So let's pretend that now I have done this interview here. I'm the user. I've done the face-to-face interview or the second round interview with Samira. Unfortunately, we're not happy with how the interview went, and we have decided not to make her an offer. In this case, I'm just going to use the Teams app to click Reject, and I get a confirmation that the workflow has been processed, and it confirms to me that the workflow has ended.
All right, so that was our demonstration of actual user scenario. Again, a basic user going through a workflow process within the Therefore integration with Teams. So we didn't even need to go into Therefore there. We just did everything in Teams, which is also a super cool way of doing it. So Amber, just for the people who are remaining, just give us a quick update if you want to learn more. What do we have in Therefore?
You can go to www.therefore.net. You can also check out our YouTube channel. We're under Therefore TV. You can subscribe to our mailing list also at therefore.net/newsletter. We have a blog you can follow on the website as well. If you want to see future webinars, just go to the same place where you registered for this one. That's therefore.net/webinars. And follow us on LinkedIn. We're doing posts almost every day at this point. I'm the one who is making them all, so if you see them, think of me. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, you can go to therefore.net/contact, or you can email Kono and I directly at media@therefore.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber.
Yeah.
And again, I emphasize LinkedIn, best way to stay in touch. Everything that happens with Therefore is posted on LinkedIn. All you have to do is click follow. You'll be sure to be up to date with everything that Therefore is doing. It's all there. So guys, thanks again for joining us. We will reach out to follow up. Thanks again for your questions. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we hope to see you on future webinars. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.